Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
Alright, what we're going to do right now is my Trimesurus panaceus, or hump-nosed pit viper from Indonesia. Hasn't had his cage cleaned in a while, so that's today's aim. Hello, Miss Bobbitt. I know you're always looking for something to eat. I know I'm starving you. I'll give you something bigger today. So, Thumper, as we call him, because at night if you come in here, he's up on top of his tree and he sees you, he immediately starts wagging his tail, and it usually hits the side of the cage going thump, thump, thump. He's very rarely seen. I mean, you know, he only comes out at night. He's a night shift snake. When I feed him, I just present some food at the entrance to his little hide, which will show you when the cage is clean and everything's done and stuff. And we never see him. So this is sort of a rare sort of visit with him, because you rarely get to see him. I will need the short forceps if they're over there. Yep, thanks.
Wait, let me have my thumb back.
Okay, so first thing was sort of have to dismantle this cage a little bit in order to get to him. And he's a very untidy fellow. Because of COVID and the fact that you can't get fresh antivenin from Thailand for this species, and we don't work very much with the animals right now, so you guys are just going to have to bear with me. And this is Viperkeeper, and we'll some of the videos that you'll see are primarily going to be feeding videos, much less videos with lots of interactions. We just do the bare minimums as necessary. I don't know if you can see it, Mr. Taipan's light is out, but you know, he has taken not to go into his strap box anymore. I've never seen him in his strap box, so if he went into his strap box, I would have fixed his light by now, but you don't want to handle a 6-foot Taipan unless you really have to, and I'm trying to avoid having to, but it might be necessary sometime soon, because things don't seem to be getting any better with the COVID situation, because of lack of governmental planning and getting vaccines out to people. Now I'm just checking and making sure that they don't see him out. He is inside. This is his tree. Fortunately, he has not pooped on it too much. Yes, hi, I see you. Yes, I'm coming to visit for a change. we're hoping that he behaves himself so Mrs. Viperkeeper can just hold him on a hook. And if he decides that he's not going to be cooperative, we're going to dump him in the bin and put the lid on and just go about our normal cleaning routine. But I figured that you might get to see him. It's a little bit of a stuck shed on his back, which is really odd because his cage has got a way of misting. So you can see this is his hut, and I buy these commercially available, and I drill 2 holes and I put a zip tie through, so it's easy to handle them and put them in place and remove them if necessary, which is a whole lot, makes it a whole lot easier for working with these things. So just set that there. Now, Mr. Panesius, you're going to behave yourself, huh? And stay on the hook. You're not looking so pretty because you got some stuck shed. But here's Mr. Panesius, or aka Thumper. I've had him for quite some time. He's your typical male snake, Trimosaurus that is. He doesn't feed all that often, and it looks like we're going to think about going exploring. So I'm going to hand this over to Mrs. Viperkeeper, and she can dump them in the pail if need be. I will remove this so I can put the lid on in a hurry. Boy, that's some of these plants are ancient. I've had them for a long time. So these are your typical Trimosaurus species. I call that the junk drawer of venomous classifications. Snakes go in and out of Trimosaurus like you change your underwear. At least I hope you change your underwear.
No, you're not going to come up the hook. Of course you are. Of course you are. Go on, just stay down there.
If you raise the hook like that, he will.
Yeah, well.
All right.
It's going in there.
Okay.
I don't like having venomous snakes coming towards my hand.
Okay, so remove that hook, and we'll put Mr. Panesius in the bucket, and we'll put the lid on, and we'll just have to deal with that. Okay, so that's why we have this. We try to have a discussion and a plan in case things go off the rails, and when you're working with venomous snakes, they very often go off the rails. So as I was saying, Trimosaurus panesius, like many of the Trimosaurus species, are all lumped into this very large genus, Trimosaurus, and snakes have their DNA checked, and they do various studies, and all of a sudden someone proposes that a snake doesn't belong in Trimosaurus, it belongs in another genera. A classic example of that is the mangrove pit viper down here, or the shores pit viper, as it's also known, or our friendly neighborhood perp. It used to be, and the label still says Cryptolytrops purpuromaculatus, but now it's in Trimosaurus because some investigator found evidence that it should be in Trymosaurus and not in Cryptolytrops. Also, the Insularis used to be in Cryptolytrops. I sort of like Cryptolytrops. I think that's a pretty cool name. It takes a while to learn to spell correctly and sometimes to pronounce, but I kind of fancied it, so I left it there. You know, the scientific names are important, especially in medically significant species of snakes. You want to, the physician treating wants to know exactly what it is, because as I said, you know, with the mangrove pit viper, it also is known as Shore's pit viper, and it's got probably 3 or 4 dozen local names in which the locals call it. Subsequently, things can be confusing, and you know, what you were exactly bitten by may be in question, and the physician a lot of times has to determine that by symptomology. And since we're talking a pit vipers generally have hemotoxic or hemorrhagic venom. They may have some myotoxic components, and also in some instances they actually have neurotoxins. Mr. Panesius there, Thumper, has hemotoxic venom and with lots of cytotoxins, so you can lose a bit of flesh with a bite, but for the most part it's going to affect your ability to coagulate, and it's may require antivenin. I have a friend who was bitten by one trying to bag it up. And you know, I have to say, working with these animals, trying to bag them up, trying to move them from A to B, trying to feed them, trying to water them, you know, all these things are not without risk. And that's why, you know, we're extra careful right now because of COVID, because if an accident happens and I need to go to the emergency room, emergency rooms have lots of people with COVID go through them, and you don't need that sort of exposure to a potentially lethal virus that's floating around in the environment. Also, snake bites are different from your normal emergency visit to the ER. Physicians, you know, are trained to take care of your normal trauma and allergic reactions, as well as you know, strokes and heart attacks and diabetic issues, those sort of things. These are normal. They know how to deal with them. There's procedures in place. You go in with a snake bite, and unless they have expertise and experience in treating snake bites, especially exotic bites, you're in trouble, and you really need an advocate in order to navigate it. And Lori would be my advocate, making sure that the physician actually took the instructions of my venom docs that I work with, who are experts in treating snake bite. Many of them can be found on the Facebook page National Snakebite Support, where we try to help people here in the United States that are bitten by venomous snakes, your traditional variety of rattlesnakes that are native to the U.S., as well as copperheads and water moccasins, and the occasional coral snake bite. They're pretty common, but they do happen. We had a couple of cases last year where people were bitten. Interestingly enough, the Texas coral snake has more of a cytotoxic effect and pain-inducing bite rather than a neurotoxic bite. Now, this happens to be more of a regional thing. Depending on where the coral snake in Texas is found, it may have a more cytotoxic bite, or it may have some neurotoxicity. My friend Dr. Spencer Green is doing some studies on this and has treated lots of Texas coral snake bites, and I don't believe he's ever had to use antivenom once on a Texas coral snake bite. Totally different story with the eastern coral snake. It is highly neurotoxic, both pre and post-synaptic neurotoxins, and if you get bit by one of those and you start to have neurotoxic symptomology at the hospital, they will absolutely certainly need to give you antivenom. And right now there's the old standby, the old Wyeth antivenom, which the FDA recertifies the very old lots of lyophilized antivenom that's being used. And then also there's a newer antivenom by Pfizer. I am not quite certain of its widespread availability. But at any rate, Mr. Thumpers' cage is back in action, and if I would have known that he had a bit of a stuck shed, I would have probably dumped him in the bucket of water to try to loosen that shed, but it didn't seem to be in any critical areas. His eye caps came off, most of his head, it was just sort of patchy on the back. So we will take Thumper here and put him back in his cage. I guarantee you he will be butthurt. He looks butthurt right now. Come on, bud.
He's particularly butthurt since I dumped him in so unceremoniously.
He's really not a bad snake. You can see he has some very nice colorations.
Hello.
He doesn't like cameras apparently. And he is butthurt right now, so he is very defensive. So we're going to put him back in his cage. We're going to try to put him back in his cage.
There you go. Yep.
Oh.
Whoops.
You know, we just can't do something without playing snake hockey. Come on, dude. Back in your cage.
I don't want to go back in my cage now that I'm out.
This is my chance. Okay.
They've got to be contrary.
Yes, they always have to be difficult. You know, I think it's just in their contract to make you look as silly and stupid and inept as possible. They will always cause you some grief. So that's Mr. Panesius of the genus Trimasaurus, hump-nosed pit viper. I've had some very beautiful specimens. You know, there's just nothing coming into the country right now as far as imports. The venomous market is really almost flatlined because of, you know, not much air travel. Many states are outlawing venomous keeping. New York State actually is going to outlaw shipping of lots of animals, including lots of different pet animals, not necessarily dogs or cats, I think, but certainly reptiles, amphibians, and insects, and things like that. They're just not going to allow you to ship those into the state of New York. If you go to the USARC page, there's an article there, and you can call your representative and complain about their stupidity, because someone will just have it shipped to a friend's house across the border and they'll just come pick it up. It's just ridiculous. So with that, we'll move on to our next task for the day.